I've been waiting for this movie since I first heard about it quite some time ago, and man, did they go all out with their marketing budget. Your boy's in the house. In this video, I want to share my take on the Super Mario Bros. Movie. It will be divided into chapters which involve reviewing my initial expectations, details about the main characters, including Mario, Luigi, Princess Peach, Bowser, Toad, and Donkey Kong, the main storyline, my guess for why they had a new voice cast for the Bros, a few small but confusing details, Easter eggs, post-credits scenes, and then concluding with my overall thoughts. This video will naturally include spoilers, so if you haven't watched the movie yet, I definitely would recommend seeing that first. If it helps, I recommend saving this video to your watch later playlist to easily return here afterwards. Speaking of returning, if you love Mario and other Nintendo games like me, do consider subscribing to my channel for more Nintendo related content, including gaming videos. One perk my subscribers get is immediate direct access to unlisted content I only share in community posts. That way, you will definitely be the first to have access to these more exclusive videos. I made a New Year's resolution to achieve 200 subscribers by January 1st, 2024, and I'm making headway toward achieving that goal. I appreciate all your support to help me grow. Alright, I want to get you to what you're waiting for, so I'll begin this review with my expectations I had prior to seeing the movie. First off, the Mario franchise was what really got me into video games when I was a kid. I grew up playing games on the N64, GameCube, and Wii in the 2000s, and now play Mario games on the Switch. Being a big Mario fan, I was definitely excited upon hearing that Nintendo had plans for a movie. Now, I'm not a big movie person. If I'd seen a film in the theaters and ever want to see it again, I'd always wait for it to release on some kind of streaming service or DVD instead of spending more money on a ticket. The only exception was Sonic the Hedgehog 2. I didn't mind watching that again on the big screen. So I thought if I enjoyed the Sonic movie that much, my expectations for the Mario team to compete can be pretty high. I got even more excited when Nintendo had come to make an announcement on Twitter.com shortly after Sonic the Hedgehog 2 released, saying that they needed to postpone the Mario movie's release date. I imagine Nintendo knew much of their audience also liked Sonic and watched those movies already. Therefore, it became one of probably several reasons to determine more time was needed to make the Mario movie just right. Speaking of Mr. Miyamoto, I also recall him first sharing who's casting who. Of course, I was expecting Charles Martinet, the voice of Mario in the modern games, to voice the Bros. But like about everyone else, I was surprised to hear that they would be voiced by Chris Pratt and Charlie Day. Although I was confused as to why the beloved Charles was replaced by other voice actors here, I do have a guess as to why, which I will share later when I talk about the decision to cast new voice actors. In short, I really didn't want to form an opinion on the new cast without seeing the film first. Since I'm also not big on celebrities, I had no idea what to expect from Charlie Day, Anya Taylor-Joy, or Seth Rogen anyway. Since I didn't play a role in the casting, I trusted Nintendo and Illumination's choices. The one thing that kinda worried me was actually the partnership with Illumination. The reason for this was because of what happened to the Star Wars movies when Disney got involved. Many fans did not like the sequel trilogy like they did the original.
Ray Skywalker.
And Mark Hamill, who played Luke Skywalker, also expressed disagreements with some of Disney's choices for his character.
Luke would never say that.
So basically, I was afraid Illumination was going to implement drastic changes to the Mario world that won't make sense to people who've been attached to it for years. But then I remembered that Illumination is only a partner to Nintendo. They didn't buy the rights to Mario. No way Nintendo would agree to any deal. And unlike George Lucas for the new generation of Star Wars, Shigeru Miyamoto still had much influence over his franchise here. I've seen a couple of Despicable Me movies, but I honestly wasn't a fan. Despicable Me and Sing are really kids movies in my eyes. Despite how much of a child audience Mario still has, this franchise has a huge adult audience too, so I hoped I wasn't walking into another movie made specifically for kids. Since Sonic the Hedgehog 2 featured some references to classic Sonic games that older fans recognized, I had high hopes that I'd see some references to Mario games here. Of course, I couldn't be sure of my expectations for anything until I finally saw it, so it was off to the cinema for me. Alright, before I get into the details of the movie, I want to start with the characters. So, let's begin with Mario. The trailer gave us the idea that this was going to be about the origin story of Super Mario. Mario was originally seen as small by Foreman Spike and even Princess Peach, but he's determined to change that. Although he might be physically small, Mario is strong on the inside. He protected Luigi whenever he got in trouble since they were toddlers and refuses to give up on finding him when they get separated in a foreign world. He never gives up in the fight against Donkey Kong or Bowser, even when he questions his own confidence. Such will is even directly acknowledged by Peach.
You just don't know when to quit.
And in the end, Mario feels even stronger when he gets Luigi back from Bowser and fulfills his dream of quote-unquote saving Brooklyn. It just wasn't in the way he initially intended. The one thing that threw me off a bit was the fact that he hated mushrooms at first, but I think this experience is what changed that.
Mamma mia!
I think Nintendo and Illumination did a really good job telling this story. I love how we get to see how Mario goes from an ordinary person trying to make a name for himself to the legendary Super Mario we all know and love. Mario's determination is what gives him strength even without any power-ups or many supporters to believe him. I think they really showed that whenever he's upset, like after hearing his dad's feedback for him, going through Peach's training course, getting stuck in the gut of a giant eel, and especially when seeing his broken self reflected by the broken TV before he gets up again for the final fight. As for Chris Pratt voicing Mario, I recall many people were not in favor of casting him. Along the lines of what I mentioned before, I didn't want to judge Chris Pratt before seeing him try voicing Mario. But now that I have, I think he did pretty alright. Since Mario was also played by quite a few people in other non-gaming entertainment, like for example Captain Lou Albano in the 1989 series The Super Mario Bros. Super Show, it didn't take me very long to get used to yet another voice. Again, Mario is not Super Mario for most of the movie. I think having him sound more like an ordinary person right now works. Other differences like Mario not liking mushrooms also make some sense because of that. Now let's talk about Luigi's character. I know Luigi is the more timid hero, but he will muster up the courage if he really needs it. Given this is called the Super Mario Bros. Movie, I imagine Luigi's role was going to be just as important as Mario's. And it kinda is. Luigi is the reason behind the main conflict of the story when he gets separated from Mario. But when I watched this movie with my brother and my girlfriend, we all agreed that Luigi probably could have had more screen time. I can understand why they didn't have Luigi do much while in captivity, given that he can't fend for himself without Mario. But as Mario gets stronger throughout the film, maybe it would have been better if they made Luigi develop just like that too. When looking down at the fortress from the hot air balloon, Luigi shows some self-reflection when comparing his struggles with versus without Mario. That could have been a great reason to have him try to escape the cage himself. I imagine he would still fail, but such an effort ought to showcase the beginning of Super Luigi. But this is just a small idea that can still be overlooked because Luigi is often more of a follower than a leader. And I love how they didn't make him a scaredy cat for the whole duration of the movie. They have him come out of hiding to save Mario from Bowser's fire breath and ultimately finish him off alongside Super Mario. Unlike his brother, Luigi does not really aspire to be someone bigger until he gets some inspiration from Mario, which can explain why his bravery is saved for the end. I honestly think the directors nailed it with Luigi's character, and Charlie Day did a great job in expressing his emotions through his voice. Princess Peach's character honestly caught me off guard at first. I know Peach as the royal and pretty girly leader of the Mushroom Kingdom who often gets kidnapped by Bowser. When Mario meets her for the first time, we learn that she's already physically strong and really capable of fending for herself. Instead of gasping in surprise or simply stepping out of Mario's way to dodge him as I predicted, Peach instinctively flips him right over her. At that moment, I thought such a move was something more like Princess Daisy style. Remember the Smash Bros. Melee times when a playable Daisy was really Peach with her color scheme? I felt this was like that, only the other way around. For a brief moment, I thought we were meeting Daisy here. Given this is like an origin story for Super Mario, it made me think that Mario probably wouldn't need to save Peach from Bowser at all in the future if she's already like this. Though there are games where she's not the damsel in distress, rather a playable heroine or the main heroine, like in Super Princess Peach, Nintendo didn't really change her girly character. And of course, Peach has a new voice actress, Anya Taylor-Joy. So, in short, they changed Peach quite a bit for the movie. Although Mario games are not always consistent with each other, like Peach's castle environment has undergone some upgrades since Mario 64, to me it hits differently for a character. I understand that the movie does not have to be consistent with the games, and I'm happy with the fact that Shigeru Miyamoto wanted Peach to be seen as a stronger character, but I was just hoping the movie would make sense of the change itself. Luckily, it does, when she explains to Mario and us viewers how she got to where she is. She apparently ended up in the Mushroom Kingdom somehow during childhood and was raised by the Toads. This explains how she earned the role of princess and how she knows the Mushroom Kingdom's environment so well. It also explains why she's a human, not a Toad herself, and is so dedicated to protecting the kingdom from Bowser. Honestly, her explanation ties the knots I had. Like I mentioned earlier, I wasn't going to be very on board with a poorly connected change to a character. In the Star Wars sequel trilogy, Mark Hamill was not a fan of having Luke Skywalker give up on Kylo Ren's fading connection to the light side because he refused to do that for Darth Vader. That's evident in Star Wars Episode 6, Return of the Jedi.
I'll not leave you here, I've got to save you.
The sequel trilogy didn't really do a good job at explaining a change in Luke's character along with some other things, hence the common negative opinions from fans. As for Peach, the directors didn't change her simply because they wanted to and just left it at that. This is not Daisy Toadstool or a complete character rewrite to me. I love how the movie explains how Peach is who she is. It also demonstrates why she's a princess fit to rule her kingdom, and is a perfect mentor for an inexperienced Mario. So as for Anya Taylor-Joy voicing Peach, my opinion is pretty much the same as the one I have for Chris Pratt. She did pretty good. Like Mario, Peach has had a few voice actresses over the years, so another voice actress was not a big hurdle for me to leap over. Meanwhile, on the other side of the war, Bowser is the nasty king of the Koopas who stops at nothing to get what he wants. More often than not, he either wants to get together with Peach and/or take control of the Mushroom Kingdom, even if that means forcefully. Here, that's exactly who he is. Might not have to explain much given these reasons are why he's the problem for everyone against him. I just think the directors really emphasized on him wanting Peach. I mean, he's like a freaking simp, which pulls off really well. What I really want to talk about regarding Bowser is the decision to cast Jack Black. Of all the celebrities casting the important characters, I'm most familiar with this one. Jack Black is an energetic, funny guy who made Po from Kung Fu Panda really stand out from other, generally hyper characters to me. Come to think of it, it can probably be explained by Jack Black's own type of hype. The Jack Black kind of hype. Before release, people thought this casting decision would be hysterical, and they were right. The dude is also a singer. Having him in the zone while jamming out honestly screams Jack Black. And Peaches. Although this is not something I expected from Bowser, him on the piano simping over Peach with a short, hilarious song he wrote for her worked so well. It can arguably be the best part of the whole movie hands down. The song even made it to the iTunes Top 100 chart within a week after release day. Aside from this masterpiece, Jack Black really brought the role to life whether Bowser was menacing or trying to be charismatic. I'm confident many people will agree.
We'll see how tough this Mario is when he watches me kill his brother!
Toad is short. We all know that, but honestly, my review for him is probably just as short. That's my wacky heads up for you. Of all the Toads, there are a few that often stand out from the crowd. Of course, I will be talking about the red-spotted Toad with a blue vest, or arguably Captain Toad given he has a backpack. I'll just call him Captain Toad to differentiate him. Since Toads are small and not very strong, they're understandably afraid of Bowser, but Captain Toad is adventurous. I noticed the movie slightly captures this trait when he meets Mario for the first time. He's just there, alone, doing whatever he wants to do, and doesn't freak out when meeting a stranger who's clearly not a Toad.
I fear nothing.
Meanwhile, other Toads in Toad Town are dumbfounded upon seeing Mario and won't say anything. The big example of Toad's bravery is when he vows to protect Peach by accompanying her and Mario's excursion to the Kong Kingdom. Even after having been put in danger by Bowser's army, he still refuses to run away and leave Peach, showcasing his loyalty and that he really keeps his word. Toads are basically side characters, and Captain Toad is basically a supporting character. As much as I personally would have loved to see more of him in the film, I'm totally fine with Captain Toad as is because his heroic role is mainly to support Peach and Mario. I think it's funny they have Keegan-Michael Key play Captain Toad's voice for this movie, and thought he too did a great job overall. Lastly, we have Donkey Kong. The role of DK has been present since the very beginning of Mario. That is, if you include him from the original arcade games, although that's said to technically be Cranky Kong. At the very beginning of his existence, Donkey Kong was seen as an antagonist, throwing barrels at Mario, but nowadays he's more like a good guy who sides with Mario and still throws barrels at him.
You want to know why? It's mind your own business, that's why!
I think this rivalry turned to friendship, turned to friendly rivalry, is depicted throughout the movie. Mario and DK are organized to fight each other, and as a result, they aren't exactly eye to eye immediately afterwards.
I hate you.
But they still fight alongside each other, ultimately becoming friends by the end of the film. To me, this is similar to the relationship between Sonic and Knuckles in Sonic the Hedgehog 2. Sonic is the main protagonist, Knuckles is physically strong and doesn't like Sonic at first. Their first interaction is a fight. Later, Knuckles sides with him and becomes his friend. Funny enough, I realized that in the Sonic movie, Sonic rescues Knuckles from drowning, although they're not on the best terms with each other yet. Knuckles also saves him shortly after. Similarly, Mario saves DK from drowning, although they're also not on the best terms with each other yet. Shortly after, DK gets Mario out of the eel's gut thanks to his remaining rocket barrel. I just knew they were going to ride that one. On top of all that, Mario and DK humorously still go at each other a bit before ultimately becoming allies like Sonic and Knuckles did on that beach.
Why did you save me?
Final thing about DK. Seth Rogen's laugh. It's pretty much a meme at this point, and I can't unhear it. But honestly, I'm not mad. But I might be going mad, if that makes sense.
Just live the dream.
If you start hearing me laugh like that, run. As someone who's played many Mario and quite a few Donkey Kong games over the years, I'm very attached to all these characters. Although I wouldn't be angry if they were changed a lot, I just really wouldn't recognize them as the same individual characters I grew up with in the games. I'm actually pretty happy with how each of these characters turned out here overall. And same goes for supporting characters like Kamek and Cranky Kong. Now let's talk about some decisions about details made for the movie, specifically starting with the plot. People who've played Mario games would recognize a common theme involving Bowser kidnapping Peach, meaning Mario goes to rescue her, along with maybe Luigi and other companions. The initial trailers immediately demonstrate that's not going to be the case here. Given Mario has never been to the Mushroom Kingdom before, he doesn't have any bond with Peach yet. Nintendo could have pulled that off as Mario rescuing Peach for the first time. The Toads would have been desperate for help from the Bros to get Peach back, Peach would be grateful to the Bros for rescuing her, and that could be how the Super Mario Bros. Came into existence. But the directors didn't go that route. Instead, they made Luigi the one in trouble. Luigi is Mario's brother. Their connection is reasonably strong from the beginning. This brotherly bond makes perfect sense as to why Mario is desperate to rescue him. Given that we've seen Peach get kidnapped by Bowser numerous times, having that as the theme of the movie wouldn't stand out too much compared to the games with the exact same idea. In my opinion, Luigi ending up in trouble instead of Peach was a great decision, not just from a logical standpoint, but also for us fans who want to see something new. Okay, as I mentioned in the expectations part, I have no idea why they didn't just cast Charles Martinet for the Bros. If I had to take a guess, I would imagine because it would make other character voices seem out of place.
Hello!
Goodbye, Mario.
In the games, Bowser sometimes doesn't talk. Rather, he'd have text for the player to read. Oftentimes, the same applies to Toads. Even when Bowser seldom talks in Mario Galaxy or Bowser's Inside Story, his real voice doesn't sound like a regular human voice because it's not supposed to. He's a turtle, dragon, Koopa thing. And Toad's voice can simply be summarized as unique. The point is, if Charles Martinet was casted to voice the Mario Bros, we can probably expect everyone else to have their original voices too. Given Bowser's and Toad's voices in the games are so raunchy, I'd imagine that'd be hard to listen to over time, let alone understand without subtitles. It'd also be weird to have Charles Martinet as Mario and Luigi, but Keegan-Michael Key as Toad, and so on, because none of those voice actors were in any of the games. The idea of Chris Pratt impersonating Charles Martinet's Mario voice for the whole movie would have defeated the purpose of casting him. In hindsight, that probably would have sounded hella weird anyway, but there are times he kinda sounds just like him. So anyway, that's my hypothesis. I'm curious what you guys thought of, so if you took a guess like I did, feel free to share it in the comments below to get a thread going. I noticed a couple small details in the film that actually left me confused after it ended, one of which involved Bowser's introduction to the Mario Bros. In this story, Bowser has never seen them before. He first hears about Mario from Kamek, the dude I heard is allergic to prunes. Kamek describes Mario as a mustachioed individual without actually mentioning his name. Soon after, when Bowser meets Luigi, I was expecting him to mistake Luigi for Mario, given that he also fits that description. But he already somehow knows that Luigi is not the same guy Kamek told him about. Kamek must not have known about Luigi's arrival, as he was observing Peach in the Mushroom Kingdom, not the Darklands. As a matter of fact, Luigi is discovered by Shy Guys and Sniffets in the Darklands. Unless there was some communication between Luigi's captives and Bowser off-screen before he's brought in, I wondered how Bowser already knows Mario and Luigi are not the same person. The second part is DK's relationship to Cranky Kong. I believe canonically, Cranky Kong is DK's grandfather.
The Donkey Kong who fought that epic battle with Mario was this guy's grandfather.
In the movie, they're father-son. And those were the only two confusing parts that I still had by the end of the movie. Regarding the one with Bowser, I could just be overthinking it, or there was some small detail that I might have missed. If anyone is able to explain it in the comments, I definitely appreciate it. I personally think it's really fun when movies hide cameos and references for fans to look for. I recall my brother and I looking for hidden Mickey Mouse heads when watching The Lion King as kids, and doing just that again about a decade and a half later at Disney World. From what I know of, movies with Easter eggs will often only have a few of them, if not just one. But the Mario movie has numerous references to a large variety of Nintendo games hidden in plain sight and discreetly all throughout the film. I honestly can't tell you how many I discovered, but I'll start with some that I imagine true Nintendo fans would notice in the beginning. The scene where the bros are watching their commercial takes place in Punch-Out Pizzeria, referencing the original Punch-Out game. You can see photos of Glass Joe and a pixel duck sprite from Duck Hunt on the wall near the TV. Shortly after, the camera pans off to the side where you see a stranger playing Donkey Kong, the first arcade game Mr. Miyamoto designed as a Nintendo developer in 1981. Except here, the cabinet is labeled Jumpman, the name of the protagonist in this game, which was Mario's name at the time. A stranger named Giuseppe? I'm not Italian, I hope I'm pronouncing that name right. Anyway, he's dressed and jumps just like Jumpman from the game. One thing I didn't immediately notice about him is that he's voiced by Charles Martinet with his original Mario voice.
Too much, it's perfect!
Just these few seconds had so many hidden references. I love how they take us back to the arcade era while the movie is still fairly in its beginning, because arcade cabinets and the Nintendo Entertainment System are how Mario games started. Although those years were quite some time ago, there are also some references I think even younger Mario fans would notice. I still consider Super Mario Odyssey to be the most recent mainline Mario game as of 2023. I imagine kids who only have a Switch played Odyssey, so Nintendo probably made the Odyssey references not so hidden so that kids would be able to notice them easily. For example, when Mario hears about Brooklyn's flooding problem on the news, you can see Pauline speaking as the mayor of Brooklyn. This resembles her character as the mayor of New Donk City in the game. Additionally, Bowser's hat and Peach's dress are also iconic outfits from Odyssey. A more hidden reference to Odyssey would be the Crazy Cap store in Toad Town, as indicated by its iconic purple and yellow sign here. Although these were the three I recall, I want to imagine there were more Odyssey references somewhere. If you discovered any more references to Super Mario Odyssey or want to share any other Easter eggs you found, feel free to comment them down below and I'll respond back if I have noticed them too. Still along the lines of hidden content, I get pretty excited when a movie has post-credit scenes, so I was hoping this one would. Usually post-credit scenes showcase either what happens shortly after the end of the movie's plot, or takes us back to an area we've seen and how that's changed now. Seems like the directors went with both ideas. The first post-credits scene lets us hear some of Bowser's legendary composition again, until he's interrupted, not by Kamek but a Toad Guard. When we leave the zone, we learn that Bowser is still small, and is now a captive of the Mushroom Kingdom. Boy, had the tables turned for him. At least he's not threatened to death by a pool of lava here, and he gets a piano fitted to his size on top of that. Talk about luxury. As for the very last thing we see before the movie officially ends, we return to the Brooklyn Underground, where the Mario Bros first discovered that pipe. It seems like Mario's actions led to a lone Yoshi egg ending up in the real world, teasing a sequel with Yoshi having a main role in it. Yoshi fans like my brother are hyped. A sequel is already in the works, and that leaves big fans like me happy to hear that the show can go on. Given what we know about the story, it leaves me wondering how the plot will go. What conflict will come up? What will Bowser, if not someone else, do to cause mayhem now? With the hint of more Yoshi in a sequel, we can hope to see that other new characters will make an appearance. I'm personally hoping for Wario and Waluigi to aid Bowser as they had in Mario Power Tennis. I mean, Chris Pratt and Charlie Day even agreed behind the scenes that Danny DeVito would make a fun Wario. I can also see Rosalina possibly making an appearance given that we have Illuma in this movie. All in all, I'm definitely hyped for more to the story, and I wish the best of luck to Nintendo and Illumination in their production. To close off this review, my overall rating is surely a 10 out of 10, and as I anticipated, I ended up returning to the theater a few days later to rewatch it, this time with my aunt, the person who exposed Mario games to me back when I was 3 or 4 years old. And yes, I found some more Easter eggs I didn't notice the first time. I'm pretty happy with all the characters in this movie. Casting new voice actors to play everyone's role may or may not have been the best idea, but the way I currently see it, it worked out pretty well, so it was probably a good call. We haven't seen Luigi get captured as often as we did Peach, so incorporating this idea to get Mario to help save the Mushroom Kingdom from Bowser was well thought out. The only things that confused me were not so important to the plot, so they were negligible. I had a lot of fun going on a scavenger hunt that lasted the entire movie, especially during my second viewing, and we're shocked to hear that there was a little more to Bowser's simp song and a continuation of the story we can enjoy in the future. I believe I made it clear by now, but I totes enjoyed this film and look forward to more of the story. As I mentioned in my expectations for this movie, I didn't have high hopes for Illumination at first, but they definitely did a great job in helping Nintendo here. I'm grateful to everyone involved in producing this cinematic masterpiece, and tailoring it not only to younger Mario fans, but also older fans that have been around since the early days of Super Mario. And also, I'd like to express a big thank you to you, the viewers who watched to the very end of my review. This is my very first video review for a movie. If you liked it, feel free to express your like with the like button. Also, I'd love to hear your opinions about the film as well. We can get some conversation threads started in the comment section. Once I've seen a sequel, I'll definitely write another review on that as well. You can get notified of that by subscribing and hitting the bell. Since it'll be some time before we get a sequel, I'll definitely be posting some Mario and other gaming videos in the meantime. But until then, I'm off this sauce.